The accident happened on Route 7, 3 miles from the nearest exit. A deer darted across the highway at dusk, and I swerved to avoid it. My car spun twice before hitting the guardrail hard enough to deploy the airbags. I sat in the wreckage for maybe 30 seconds, checking myself for injuries. Nothing was broken, but my head throbbed where it had hit the side window. The airbag had left my face feeling burned. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. I called my sister Victoria first. She lived 20 minutes away. We weren't particularly close, but she was family, and I was hurt and scared and not thinking clearly enough to call anyone else. The call went to voicemail. I tried again. Voicemail. A text. Vic, I was in an accident on Route 7. Car's totaled. I'm hurt. Please come get me. The message showed as read within seconds. No response. I called again and again. 6 calls in 10 minutes, each one going to voicemail. I could see she was reading my texts. The little read receipt mocked me under each increasingly desperate message. Please answer. I need help. Vic, please, I'm bleeding. Why aren't you answering? A state trooper eventually stopped and called me an ambulance. I spent 4 hours in the emergency room getting stitches for the cut on my head and being monitored for a concussion. My phone sat on the hospital tray beside me silent. Victoria finally called back at 11 that night, 7 hours after my first call. Hey, sorry, I was at dinner with Marcus. Phone was on silent. What's up? I was in a car accident. I called you 17 times. Oh my God, are you okay? I have a concussion and 8 stitches in my head. I needed you to come get me. I needed help. Well, you're obviously fine now. Why are you being dramatic about it? You got to the hospital, right? So someone helped you. A stranger helped me. You're my sister. You saw my messages and ignored them. I didn't ignore them. I was busy. You can't expect me to drop everything every time you have a problem. I have a life, Hannah. That was 3 years ago. I think about it every time Victoria's name appears on my phone, which isn't often anymore. We exchange texts on birthdays and holidays, see each other at family gatherings where we make polite small talk. But the relationship we had before, whatever thin thread connected us as sisters, snapped that night on Route 7. What Victoria didn't know was that our grandmother had named me as trustee of her medical trust 2 years after the accident. Grandma Eleanor had established the trust specifically to ensure her grandchildren would have access to quality health care regardless of their financial circumstances. $500,000 set aside for medical expenses, properly invested and growing steadily. The conversation when she'd asked me to serve as trustee had taken place in her living room, 6 months before she died. She'd been frail but sharp, her mind still clear as crystal. I'm naming you trustee, Hannah. Not your parents, not Victoria. You. Why me? Because you show up. Every week for 3 years, you've shown up, driven me to appointments, managed my medications, sat with me through chemotherapy. Your sister visited twice in that same period, both times because your mother guilted her into it. She's busy with work. Everyone's busy. You made time. That tells me who can be trusted with responsibility. She'd squeezed my hand. Besides, I heard about your accident, about the calls Victoria didn't answer. I've been surprised. You knew about that? Your mother told me. Tried to defend Victoria, said she'd been at dinner and didn't hear her phone. But I know the difference between missing calls and ignoring them. Victoria made a choice that night. I'm making one now. Victoria was a beneficiary. So was I. But as trustee, I controlled the approvals. Any medical expense over $50,000 required my signature. Grandma had chosen me because I'd spent her final years visiting weekly, managing her medications, and driving her to appointments. She trusted me to make sound decisions about the family's medical care. The trust administrator had explained it carefully when I took over the role. You have discretion here. You're not required to approve every request. But you should have good reasons for denial, medical necessity, appropriateness of treatment, those kinds of factors. I'd approved one claim so far, my cousin's appendectomy. Straightforward, necessary, no question. Victoria had never needed to use the trust. She was healthy, worked a corporate job with decent insurance, lived the kind of stable life that didn't involve car accidents or emergency rooms. Until now. My phone lit up on a Tuesday evening, Victoria's name. I almost didn't answer, then curiosity got the better of me. Hannah. Her voice was strained, higher pitched than normal. I need to talk to you about something important. Okay. I've been having some health issues. Severe pain, Complications. My doctor found a large ovarian cyst. It's complex, potentially dangerous. I need surgery to remove it. I'm sorry, that sounds serious. It is. The surgery is scheduled for next week. But there's a problem. My insurance has a high deductible I haven't met, and they're classifying this as partially elective because it's not an immediate emergency. I need access to Grandma's medical trust. I was quiet for a moment, letting the request settle. How much? The surgery is $85,000. Insurance will cover about $40,000. I need the trust to cover the remaining $45,000. That requires my approval. I know, that's why I'm calling. The hospital needs the signature by Thursday to keep my surgery slot. Can you sign the forms? They're sending them to your email tonight. I'll look at them. Hannah, I need this surgery. The cyst is growing. My doctor says waiting could lead to complications, even ovarian torsion. I could lose the ovary. I understand. I'll review the paperwork. Can't you just say yes now? I'm really stressed about this. I need to know it's handled. I need to see the medical documentation first. That's part of my responsibility as trustee. You're my sister. This should be automatic. The word sister hung in the air between us. I thought about Route 7, about 17 unanswered calls, about being told I was dramatic for needing help. I'll review the paperwork, I repeated. I'll let you know my decision. When? The hospital needs an answer by Thursday morning. Then I'll give them an answer by Thursday morning. Hannah, please, I'm scared. This is my health, my future fertility. I need you. I'll be in touch. I hung up before she could respond. The emails arrived 20 minutes later, surgical quotes, doctor's notes, insurance statements. I read through everything carefully. The medical necessity was clear. The cyst was 10 centimeters, complex in structure, causing significant pain and carrying real risks if left untreated. The surgery was appropriate, even urgent in a non-emergency kind of way. I could have signed the approval forms that night, could have emailed them back within the hour, giving Victoria the peace of mind she desperately needed. Instead, I marked the emails as unread and closed my laptop. Victoria called the next morning. I didn't answer. She called again that afternoon. I declined the call. A text arrived. Please call me back. The hospital is asking about the approval status. I read the message and didn't respond. That evening, my mother called. Hannah, Victoria tells me she's waiting on your signature for her surgery approval. Is there a problem? I'm reviewing the request. It requires careful consideration. Careful consideration? She's your sister and she needs surgery. What's there to consider? The trust terms require me to review all large requests thoroughly. I'm being responsible. She needs an answer by tomorrow morning. Then she'll have one by tomorrow morning. Why are you making this difficult? Just sign the forms. I'll handle it, Mom. More calls that night. Victoria, my mother, Victoria again. I let them all go to voicemail. Each notification lit up my screen, and each time I thought about my own phone lighting up on Route 7, showing 17 missed calls that Victoria had deliberately ignored. Thursday morning arrived. The surgery was scheduled for the following Tuesday. The hospital's deadline was 9 o'clock for the funding approval. At 8:30, Victoria called again. This time, I answered. Hannah, please. The hospital needs your answer in 30 minutes. I haven't slept. I don't understand why you're doing this. I was in a car accident 3 years ago, I said calmly. Do you remember? Silence. I called you 17 times. You saw every message. You read every text. You were at dinner with Marcus and didn't want to be bothered. That was years ago. That's not related to this. You told me I was being dramatic. You said I couldn't expect you to drop everything every time I had a problem. I apologize for that. No, you didn't. You said I was fine because someone else helped me. You never once acknowledged that you should have been the one to help. So this is revenge? You're going to deny my surgery out of spite? I'm not denying anything. I'm making you wait the way you made me wait. The way you ignored 17 calls while I sat bleeding in a wrecked car. That's cruel. This is my health, my body. And that was my health too, my safety, but you were busy. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry I didn't answer your calls. I'm sorry I wasn't there for you. I should have been. Please, Hannah, please don't punish me for something that happened 3 years ago. I looked at my laptop. The approval forms already signed, already scanned, sitting in my email drafts folder. I'd signed them Tuesday night, right after reading the medical documentation. I'd planned to send them Wednesday morning, then thought better of it. The forms are signed, I said. I'm sending them now. What? I'm emailing them to the hospital. They'll have them within 5 minutes. Your surgery is approved. But you just said. I signed them 2 days ago. The approval was never in question. Your surgery is medically necessary, and the trust exists for exactly this purpose. Then why did you make me wait? Why did you let me panic? Because you needed to know what it felt like, to need someone and have them not answer, to watch your messages get read and ignored, to be scared and helpless while someone who's supposed to care about you is busy with other things. That's vindictive. That's educational. You spent 3 years thinking what you did to me was no big deal, that I was dramatic, that I should have just handled it on my own. Now you know what it feels like to be on the other side. I said I'm sorry. You said you're sorry because you need something from me. 3 years, Victoria. 3 years you could have apologized, could have acknowledged what you did. But you only care now because I have power you need. She was crying. I could hear it in her breathing. I didn't realize how much I hurt you. No, you didn't, because you didn't care enough to think about it. Are you going to hold this over me forever? Every time I need something from the trust, are you going to make me beg? I'm going to make sound medical decisions based on trust requirements. What I'm not going to do is pretend we have the kind of relationship where you can call me in crisis and expect immediate support. You ended that relationship on Route 7. We're family. Family answers when you call 17 times from an accident. What we are is people who share parents and a grandmother who left us a medical trust. I'll honor my responsibilities to that trust, but don't mistake my professional obligations for sisterly devotion. I sent the approval forms while we were still on the phone. I heard the email notification sound on her end. You have your approval, I said. Your surgery will proceed as scheduled. Recover well. Hannah, wait. I hung up. My mother called 10 minutes later. Victoria says you approved the surgery, but you were cruel about it. I fulfilled my trustee obligations appropriately and in a timely manner. She's upset. She's also approved for surgery, which is what mattered. You're her sister. You should have made this easier for her. Like she made things easy for me when I was bleeding in a crashed car? My mother sighed. Are you ever going to let that go? Let it go? I don't think about it obsessively. I moved on with my life. But when Victoria calls needing something from me, yes, I remember. I remember being ignored when I needed her. And I make sure she remembers too. That's not forgiveness. You're right, it's not. Forgiveness requires acknowledgement. Victoria has spent 3 years acting like what she did was nothing. So she got a taste of what nothing feels like. Victoria's surgery went ahead as scheduled. I received the claim documentation afterward. Everything had gone well. The cyst removed, the ovary preserved. She'd recover fully. She sent a text 3 weeks post-surgery. Thank you for approving the claim. Not thank you for being there for me. Not thank you for covering my surgery. Just thank you for approving the claim. As if I were a bank clerk processing paperwork. I responded, that's my job as trustee. Glad your recovery is going well. Professional, distant, exactly what our relationship had become. My mother kept trying to broker peace. You were sisters. This grudge is going to eat at you. But it wasn't eating at me. I slept fine. I worked, lived my life, managed the medical trust with appropriate care, approved another claim for my cousin's physical therapy, reviewed documentation for a nephew's orthodontics, made sound decisions based on medical necessity and trust terms. And when Victoria needed something, I made her wait just long enough to remember, not long enough to cause harm, not long enough to be derelict in my duties. Just long enough to make sure she felt a fraction of what I'd felt. Some people call that petty. I call it proportional. She ignored 17 emergency calls while I bled in a wrecked car. I made her wait 48 hours for a surgery approval that was never in question. We're family, she'd said. And she was right. Family is the people who show up when you need them, who answer emergency calls, who don't make you beg for help while they finish dinner. What we were was 2 people bound by paperwork and shared DNA. And if she needed medical funding, I'd approve it appropriately and on time. But if she needed a sister who rushed to her aid, she should have thought about that on Route 7. Some lessons take 3 years to teach. Mine took 48 hours. I'd say we're even, but we both know that's not quite true.